Chapter 3. The correct attitude. In order to obtain guidance and help from high intelligence, it is important that you have the correct motive for doing so. What is the correct motive? Is high intelligence going to help you in order for you to have a wonderful life, to get everything you want, to enjoy yourself? Will high intelligence help you to gain at somebody else's loss? Will high intelligence help you to take prizes and deprive your opponents of winning them? We do not think so, and the evidence supports us. We believe that the correct reason for seeking help is so that you can use the help and guidance that you received to do the job you were sent here to do. And what is that job? To correct problems, and by so doing, to perfect the creation and convert planet Earth into a paradise. Common sense guides us. If we want a higher power to help us, then we have an obligation to do what the higher power wants us to do. Several years ago, a beer company advertisement theorized that you only go around once, so grab all the gusto you can. But that attitude doesn't make much sense. There is an obvious parallel in our lives. If you work for someone and that person pays you to do a job, then you have to do the job, or else they will fire you and stop paying you. Well, that's a good theory, but is there any evidence to support it? And more importantly, is there a way that we can actually determine what our job is? Is there a way to find out what task high intelligence has assigned to us? Fortunately, the answer to all three questions is yes. Jose Silva learned very early in his life that the more you give, the more you get back. His research and study of successful people confirmed that over and over. Jose Silva learns how to get more money. After his father died and his mother remarried and moved away, 6-year-old Jose found himself the oldest male in the family, and he felt an obligation to earn enough money to support his sister and younger brother. He asked his uncle for guidance, and he helped Jose set up a shoe shine business. Jose learned that men would pay him to shine their shoes. The more shoes he shined, the more money he made. The better job he did, the more repeat business he got. Then one day he asked his uncle, who was helping him, why so many men were looking at those big sheets of paper. His uncle explained that they were reading the newspaper to learn what was going on in town. So Jose found out where to get newspapers and offered them for sale to his customers. And he made more money by doing that. When he overheard some men talking about how difficult it was to find an honest, reliable person to clean their offices at night, young Jose offered to do it. He was so enthusiastic about it that they decided to give him a chance. They tested him by leaving a watch and some money out. Jose put the items away, and the next day came and showed the men where he had put them. They knew that they could trust him, and they saw that he would do a good job, and Jose made more money. It's just logical. The more people you serve, the more service you provide, the more problems you solve, the more rewards you will receive. The attitude that made the Silva method possible. There's no better proof of that than the Silva method itself. The more people Jose Silva helped with what he was learning in his research, the more he learned. It is as though the other side was giving him more information as they confirmed that he was using it not for selfish purposes, but to correct problems. He never accepted any money for what he did, he was happy to do it. And he was rewarded. The other side found a way to get $10,000 to him once in the early 1950s, to let him know that he should continue his research, by way of a lottery ticket. He told that story in Chapter 1. Unfortunately, some people think that the Silva method is just about getting things for yourself. We have had instructors who have tried to market the course that way. But in the course, you learn that Jose had something else in mind. Underlying principle of the Silva method. The first beneficial statement used in the Silva standard conditioning cycle is this: my increasing mental faculties are for serving humanity better. You are advised that your mental faculties are increasing, and at the same time you are advised of what your obligations are. How could a person not want to help someone who is hurting? How can anyone just walk away when he or she sees somebody in need? If you were not taught this when you were young, or if you have outgrown those natural instincts to help and to do constructive and creative things, then start working on getting to deep levels of mind. Get back to a level brain-wise before you were contaminated, before fear and insecurity distorted your natural instincts and judgment. That's what the Silva mental exercise does for us. It takes us back on the scale of brain evolution to an earlier age when we were young and the brain functioned predominantly at alpha and reprograms us with these statements. It is almost like going back and changing your past. If you were not taught properly, now you can go back and do it right. What makes successful people different? Jose Silva conducted more research on success than anyone else in history. He was the first person ever to use the electroencephalograph, EEG, to actually look inside the heads of people and determine what separates the super successful from the ordinary. What he found is that super successful people do their thinking, get information, and make decisions at the alpha brain level. He used to ask people questions while he had them connected to the EEG and noticed that most people would remain in beta when they answered questions. But a few, about 10%, would dip into alpha, then they would come back to beta and answer the questions. After this happened a number of times, he realized that the people whose brains dipped into alpha apparently to obtain and analyze information there tended to be more successful than those whose brains remained at beta. Evidently, there was more information available at alpha than at beta. A new attitude. Jose's research went way beyond that. He discovered that the people who experience the most success in all areas of life, not just financial, but health, relationships, happiness, sense of satisfaction, and so on, had a different attitude than the average person. He continued to research and observe people, and this research, along with his own experience and the experiences of people who followed his guidance, convinced him that there is a certain attitude that is necessary. Based on his research and his experience for more than half a century, Jose felt that if we are only trying to help ourselves, or if this is our main focus, then we are on our own. We are not going to get any help from high intelligence. But if we are working to correct the problems of humanity, because that is the right thing to do, because this is what we were sent here to do, then we will qualify for help from high intelligence. Do it because it is right, not for what you will get. We know people who will do anything to help anyone as long as there is something in it for them. But that's not sufficient. Anything that you program for should benefit at least 2 people, according to Jose. That's the minimum, the more the better. The more problems you are solving, the more people you are helping, the more you qualify for help from high intelligence. If you are just working for yourself, and doing things for yourself only, then you are not likely to get help from higher intelligence. You are on your own. The techniques will still work for you, but it is much easier when you have help from other graduates and from high intelligence. Worry about obtaining money, or the love of money, as a preacher would say, causes much suffering. John D. Rockefeller Sr. was probably the wealthiest man in the world, but he worried so much about gaining even more money that it destroyed his health. His doctor told him that his money was going to kill him. That's when the senior Rockefeller became a philanthropist. You can see an example of how all of us can help others in the story of Marge Walcott a little later in this chapter. She could not sit up by herself, she had to have a brace on her neck to hold her head up, and still she spent much of the day helping others. You have probably heard the saying that if you give a person a fish, he will satisfy his hunger for a day, but if you teach him to fish, he can feed himself from now on. The Talmud agrees. The noblest charity is to prevent a man from accepting charity, and the best alms are to show and to enable a man to dispense with alms. Not an easy challenge, but one that Jose Silva accepted. The Silva method gives you the tools, the guidance, and the direction that you need to take care of yourself, and to help others also. Many graduates start by working on themselves, on their own problems. This is quite natural. They get rid of tension and migraines, overcome insomnia, get rid of bad habits, heal the wounded inner child, and so on. A lot of graduates have great success doing this. Then they turn their attention to earning more money, getting a raise, improving their position, attracting the ideal mate, and things like these. All of these things involve other people. If you want to improve your position within humanity, then you need to work just as hard to correct the problems of humanity as you would work to correct your own personal problems. The truth is, the problems of humanity are your problems. Of course, the answer was, yes, I want to be healed. Some even felt insulted by my asking such a question. My next question was, why do you want to be healed? If the answer was, to be a better wife, or husband, or son, or daughter, and help by being a perfect human being who will help solve the problems of my neighborhood, my city, state, or nation, there was no more to say. I would go to work and help the patient. But if the answer centered on how the patient needed to live it up, enjoy life, not helping anything or anybody, then I would try to straighten out the patient's way of thinking before starting the healing. We realize that not everybody is ready to accept all of these ideas. That's fine. Feel free to study them and take as long as you need. As we say in the Silva Standard Conditioning Cycle, you may accept or reject anything I say, anytime, at any level of mind. Once you learn to analyze information while at the alpha level, these ideas will make more sense to you. How a chicken ruined two families. Jose Silva believed that it is very important that we understand what's really important in life. Two of his neighbors in Laredo, years ago, got into a silly argument about chickens that had tragic consequences. One neighbor had a small garden in the backyard. The other neighbor had some chickens. One day, one of the chickens jumped the fence and damaged some of the plants in the neighbor's garden. The two women got into an argument about the damage. Should there have been a better fence? Was the homeowner responsible for the actions of the chicken? When their husbands got home at dinner time, both wives were upset and wanted their respective husbands to take some kind of action. The two men got into an argument, which led to one man shooting and killing the other. What a tragedy. One husband dead, the other in prison, two women raising their children alone, children deprived of their fathers, the loss of two wage earners, the tragic consequences go on and on. We must learn to put things into perspective and focus on what's really important in our lives. What is important? It is important that we fulfill our mission in life. And we submit for your consideration that your mission seems to be to correct problems and help make our world a better place to live. Why do we feel that way? 2 reasons. 1. Our observations of successful people. 2. People who follow this path experience success. We know people who put themselves at the center of their world. We know people who work 20 hours a day, who stay focused on their goal and let nothing dissuade them, people willing to win at any cost. We've seen them make a lot of money, but the money still didn't really make them happy. We're not saying that money keeps you from being happy. We know people who are constantly doing for others, sacrificing and giving, and these people never have enough for themselves, and they aren't very happy either. They feel like they have been shortchanged. And in a sense, they have. We must always have a balance. There is a relationship between what we give and what we get. Jose's formula for prosperity and abundance is simple: program to correct problems and make the world a better place to live, and keep in mind what your needs are, plus a little bit more. Sometimes, from a beta, left brain, perspective, it may seem as though we should be trying to get everything we can for ourselves. But from an alpha, right brain, or spiritual, perspective, we see otherwise. According to Jose, we prey on each other at the beta level, but we pray for each other at alpha. Keep in mind that you must have a balance: you give, and you also receive. If you do not permit the people to whom you give to compensate you, then you are cheating them of the wonderful opportunity to gain all of the benefits of giving. Be unselfish, keep a balance in your life between giving and receiving. You can determine the value of your work based on the compensation that you receive. Compensation comes in many ways. There is not always a direct relationship between giving and receiving. When you do $5 worth of work for somebody, you may not receive $5 compensation from that person. But overall, you will be compensated. Read Jose's story about a time when he healed a man in Mexico. I crossed the Rio Grande River 3 times a day, every day, for a month, to perform the laying on of hands to correct a health problem that the man had. At the end of the 30 days, the illness was gone. One of my friends, who had doubts about helping somebody without requiring them to pay for the help, told me, "I'll bet he didn't even offer to reimburse you for the bridge tolls, did he? How much did it cost you to go over and treat him almost 100 times?" I figured out that it cost me approximately $500, but added that it did not matter, that my needs were being taken care of. That night, I did not have any appointments, so my wife, Paula, asked me to go to the church recreation hall with her to the bingo game. Although I was not interested in playing bingo, I knew that I should spend some time with my wife, so I accompanied her there. Naturally, I participated in the game. Guess how much the jackpot was? It was $500. The next day, I called my friend and told him about winning the $500. Maybe that is the way high intelligence sees to it that we are compensated, I told him. "Oh, you and your strange ideas," my friend said. He just didn't understand. How to win friends. Would you want to do business with somebody who is only interested in how much he can get for himself? Would you want to marry a person who only wanted to get all they could from you? If you are dedicated to helping humanity without expecting to be directly compensated for it, then everyone will want to be associated with you, to do business with you, to be your friend. You don't need to spend any money to find people who need help and to program for them. When you help other people, especially for people who are hurting badly, then you will have many successes. You will be improving your skills a great deal. This is like anything else, the more you practice, the better you get. But Jose always pointed out that we should not practice just for what we will get out of it, we should correct problems because that's what we're sent here to do. In meditating on these ideas, Jose found a Bible verse that the spiritual dimension seems to emulate: "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and function within God's righteousness, and all else will be added unto you." Matthew 6 verse 33. In our model, the kingdom of heaven represents Alpha. God's righteousness represents doing what God wants. All else represents everything you need, plus a little bit more. If you need $1 million, Jose said, it's easy to get. Just give $10 million worth of service to humanity, and if you need $1 million, you'll get it. Praying for others helps overcome incurable illness. People who understand the principle that we are all connected here on planet Earth, and that whatever affects one human being affects all of humanity, are the people who achieve miraculous success. Marge Walcott attended the Silva Method Basic Lecture Series in Laredo in February 1982. She was a very religious person who was accustomed to praying for other people's health. Here is her story, in her own words: "I had multiple sclerosis, MS, for 15 years. When I came to the Silva Mind Control lectures, I was wearing a body brace and a neck brace. I had to bring in a special chair to sit in. When I came to Silva Mind Control, I had strong faith, but it was doubled after I finished the basic lecture series. 2 months after graduating, I took the neck brace off. 2 months after that, the body brace broke across the back and I programmed 3 times a day. Many people were calling me, asking me to help them, so I would go to level 3 times a day to program for them. Since I was programming for them, I'd also program for myself after I had finished programming for them. I knew the doctors felt there was no hope for me, so I had little hope myself. I had desire, of course, and I would not have bothered programming if I had not had some expectancy that it could help. But I was not concerned about it. If I got better, that would be great. If not, I could accept that. The Bible says that whatever you do for others comes back to you tenfold. Apparently, when I programmed for the other people, I was helping myself too. The thoughts of healing seemed to have influenced my own brain to make corrections in my own body. It has been 12 years since I graduated from Silva Mind Control, and I have had no trouble since then with the MS. One of the challenges I had at that time was severe pain in my face muscles. When I heard about the headache control technique, it felt like someone placed a hand on my shoulder. The pain in my face stopped and has not been back since. Also, ever since I graduated, I have used the better and better phrase. I use it all the time and feel sure that it has been a big help to me in my programming and my success with the Silva method. Formula for Success. Jose Silva gave us a formula that covers this. It is in a paragraph an intention to correct problems. You will continue to strive. Some people question the use of the word strive. They think that it is like the word try and that try is a negative word. Well, it can be negative or positive, depending on how you use it. What's really important is the mental picture that you are creating. Suppose you are very busy, and you have other priorities ahead of this particular thing that you would like to do. You can say, okay, I'll do it. But that can put a lot of pressure on you and make you feel bad if you don't manage to get it done. Perhaps that works for some people. Or you can say, I doubt if I'll have time to get to it. What kind of mental picture does that create? Maybe a better way is to leave the door open by saying, I've got a lot of things to do, but I'll certainly try to get this done, too. What mental picture does that create? The idea of doing it stays in the back of your mind, and perhaps your mind, subconsciously, guides your actions so that you are now able to accomplish the task. How to know the difference between right and wrong, to take part in constructive and creative activities to make this a better world to live in. A lot of good people today seem to be confused about the concepts of right and wrong. Jose tried to make this plain and simple by talking about doing constructive and creative work. The highest godly motive back to Jose's instructions. Take part in constructive and creative activities to make this a better world to live in so that when we move on, we shall have left behind a better world for those who follow. That seems like a strange instruction, doesn't it? When asked if that was a statement of unselfishness, Jose answered simply, if it had not been for that attitude, we would not have the Silva system today. He never accepted payment of any kind for his efforts to help people during the entire 22 years of his research. He would not even allow people to reimburse him for expenses, such as gasoline and bridge tolls. Interestingly enough, Napoleon Hill conducted research of successful people for more than 20 years without receiving any money, even for expenses, before he put together his Law of Success course. It has been said that you have to give before you receive. A blueprint for correct service. The next idea touches on the popular idea that we are all brothers and sisters here on planet Earth. You will consider the whole of humanity, depending on their ages, as fathers or mothers, brothers or sisters, sons or daughters. For many years, there have been people who promoted the concept of the brotherhood of man. By the 1960s, amidst the struggles for equal rights for all people including women, people began to recognize that we are all brothers and sisters. Jose was even ahead even back then. He was already emphasizing that our relationships go beyond treating everyone as a peer. People who are old enough to be your parents, do you accord them the same respect and patience that you would give to your own parents? Do you turn away from an old person who needs help because you are busy, or do you do what you would do if this was your own father or mother? Do you respond in the same way to your peers as you would your own brothers and sisters? Brothers and sisters may fight with each other, but they still love each other. Can you do that with other people as well? What about young people? In a business situation, would you take advantage of someone who is young and inexperienced? Or would you help that person, nurture and teach him or her, the same as you would your own son or daughter? We are caretakers, you are a superior human being. You have greater understanding, compassion, and patience with others. As humans, we are the highest life form on this planet. According to Jose, we are like gods on this planet. We can do the same things on this planet that God can do throughout the universe. If we do a good job while we are on this planet, we will be promoted and will be given larger responsibilities and opportunities when we move on. Think of those words, understanding, compassion, and patience. Look them up in the dictionary. Meditate on them at your level. And program yourself to let them guide you. A specific assignment on our journey. When we move on. Now there's an interesting phrase. We don't just put in a few decades of work, and then everything comes to an end. Our responsibilities continue as we move on to whatever comes next for us. Do not let the fear of failure stop you from trying. Please don't think that we are saints. We're ordinary folks who make our best efforts, and sometimes we come up short. Like the old saying goes, it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get back up. There was a young gymnast in the 1996 Summer Olympics who made two terrible mistakes. Her team was going for the gold, and she had asked the coach to let her anchor the team. She said she was strong enough to go last, so she could see what was needed to win, and then go get it. Her coach agreed. The athlete who competed before her, her training partner, fell on both of her vault attempts. After watching that, Carrie Struggles made her first attempt and fell exactly the same way as her training partner had done. That's mental housecleaning in action. She manifested the picture that she had in her mind. Carrie had one attempt left, and only needed an average score to beat the second-place Russians. But she had made the one mistake that an athlete simply cannot afford to make. She had injured herself, spraining her ankle on her first vault. She couldn't even walk on the ankle, much less run fast enough to gain enough speed to complete her vault. But the coach told her to shake it off. I couldn't shake it off, she said later. But she made the attempt anyway, and somehow managed to keep her form through all the pain, and nailed the landing, winning the gold medal for the U.S. women's Olympic team for the first time in decades. Carrie Struggles was an instant hero, the most famous athlete to emerge from the 1996 Olympic Games. But think about this, if she had simply done her first vault correctly and gotten the necessary points to win the gold, we wouldn't even remember her name today. She'd just be one member of the team. She didn't score any perfect tens, she didn't do anything to distinguish herself until she made that terrible mistake and injured herself, when she was the last hope for her team to win the gold. If she hadn't made the mistake, she wouldn't have been the hero. Heroes are not people who always do great things. Heroes are people who persevere, who hang in there, who are not afraid to try, to strive and to make mistakes and to fail and then to come back and try again. Your next assignment. In the next chapter, Jose will teach you the new mental video technique, which you will use when you go to sleep at night. Prior to going to sleep, you need to review your mental videos at the alpha level, so continue your practice of counting yourself into your level. Your mental videos will be delivered to high intelligence while you sleep, so that your helpers in the spiritual dimension can guide.